Okay. Well, this is Katie Huff with Setting Yourself Free, a podcast that is there for you to be, do, and have all that God created you to be. And I have one of the best women patriots in the country, Lee Dundas, here with me today, who has been a warrior for us over the last 4+ years. And she is just an amazing woman of faith. She's strong. She is the best. And I am just thrilled to have her here to share with you her passion and how she has been able to make a difference in our country and all of our lives. So thank you, Lee, for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, dear. It's honored. I can't talk. It's an honor to be here, and thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely.
You know, these time changes are rough. I'm from California. I'm not really awake yet, right?
Exactly. When you fly east, it's like you kiss your butt, right?
Really,
At least you get some
hard.
extra couple hours when you're going west
True.
when you land. But she has been a warrior for our country for the last 4+ years, and I am so grateful. I met Lee in Las Vegas 2 years ago, and here we are again, waving the flag. And she has this amazing book called Just Stand Up that she brought, that you are definitely going to want to know where to find her and where to follow her and to like everything she does, because it's not just by chance.
It is not by chance. We're fighting hard, but there's a plan and there's a recipe I've discovered as we've gone through the last 50 months on how to win against the deep state tyrants and the Satanists that are on the left that are radicalizing our youth. So yeah, Clay's been on me as he's been on all of us. You know, you gotta have a podcast, you gotta have a book. I got halfway there. I did the book. It's called Just Stand Up, My Fight for Freedom from the Brothels of Asia to the Streets of America. And I go into the fight for our youth overseas against the sex traffickers that I was doing for 10 years, last 10 years. And then I also touch on the freedom fight as well, because that's taken a considerable amount of effort and time over the last 4 years. And now I've got a new course coming out.
Nice.
I have this tiny little Christian university near me. And they're like, we want you to teach a class. And I'm like, on what? And they're like, what do you think the need is greatest? I'm like, oh, that is a loaded question. I could go on for days. I'm like, fundamentally, we need to unbrainwash our youth.
Yes.
We need to teach them the tricks that all of the deep state leftists are using. We had Achilles' heels. We're overly obedient to bad authority. That's how the Holocaust happened. We are overly able to be brainwashed. They know that. The more isolated we are, the more brainwashable we are. Forerunners to the CIA in 1951 had a secret meeting at the Ritz-Carlton in Montreal with their Canadian and British counterparts. The whole purpose of that meeting was to figure out what the single most effective way was to break a human being down.
Wow.
And they commissioned all these studies, and at the end of the day, it wasn't physical torture, food or water deprivation, or blaring lights or loud music. It was isolation.
Absolutely.
They knew, walking into 2020, what isolation would do. And what they discovered as a result of those studies is not only is it uniquely set up to destroy us emotionally, the reason it does that and what it leaves in its wake is we're so craving human contact that we will believe whoever is first to the base after that. And if they say, hey, Satanists are great and you should kill all the babies and divorce your wife, the person is so jacked mentally from having been in solitary confinement or held as a POW, he's like, okay, that was really the start of the CIA knowing, okay, we can use this offensively.
Right.
And one of the things they did when our Korean POWs came back is they commissioned another guy to figure out why all of our GIs who were in prison in Korea went along with the enemy. And again, it was the isolation, it was the brainwashing, and that created a whole new body of psychological stuff on how to resist it. Well, nobody knows how we fall victim to it. Certainly nobody's talking about how to resist it. But once you know the data, you're bulletproof against all the attacks. So I'm like, I told these Koreans, they understand, they already fled once from communism this lifetime. They're like, yeah, our kids need to know that. I'm like, yeah, they do. And then I'm like, and then once we unbrainwash them and bulletproof them against all the crazy, we need to teach them how to win for God and country, because we need more people on our team. And there is a winning playbook. And that's what I'm teaching in this course. It's about 20 hours, it's online. You can get the book or sign up for my new online course at my website, which is my name, leedundas.com. And by the way, my mother gave me extra letters in that first name. It sounds like it's L-E-E, and that's how you say it, but there's actually 5 letters. It's Leighdundas. And if you click the education tab on my website, website or the book tab, you can get the data, but it's an actual Psych 101 course for college kids.
That's awesome.
They get credit for it. And the moms can do it. All the moms are like, yeah, I'm making my son take it for credit. I'm just taking it to get the data. And I'm like, right? So.
Yes. Well, when you think about it, God didn't create us to be isolated. He created us for community. And so when you are isolating, like we were in 2020, people were going bat crazy. Absolutely crazy, because that's not how we were created.
We're not supposed to be separate from each other, and that is why, even though the pot shops and the strip joints were open in the blue states like mine in Cali, they didn't want you going to church. They didn't want you having good social connections. Yeah, you want to go engage in perversion? That's all right. You want to go buy pot and smoke dope alone in your room while you're video gaming? That's fine. But don't do things that have good social fabric networking. Can't have any of that. This is whenever there's a communist overthrow of any country, or a fascist one, Hitler did the same thing. It's the same playbook. You try to get rid of family, you try to get rid of church, you try to get rid of schools that aren't state-run, pushing your narrative, because those are the bulwarks, those are the defensible positions that give people power and strength and the desire to go, hey, something's wrong, I don't think we're going to do that, we're going to speak up, we're going to hold our ground, we're not going along with this crazy plan. And if you're a tyrant looking to overthrow a country, you don't want that pushback. Yeah. So the first thing you do is you get rid of free speech. You don't let people gather to plan to hold their ground against you, and you brainwash the youth so that you can radicalize them against the parents. In Cambodia, after they hauled everybody out in Phnom Penh into the work camps, they separated the parents from the kids, and they would get to see each other going to and from the fields every day. And sometimes the parent would like grab a cricket. They were starving. I mean, they were getting this much rice in the bottom of a cup that was full of worms, if that, and mildewy milk, right? And so a parent would see like a butterfly or a cricket or something, or gecko or whatever, and they grab it and they pass it off to their kid as they passed in these lines going opposite directions. And the communists actually bribed the kids and said, if your parent tries to give you a little food on the side, we'll feed you a king's dinner if you rat your parent out.
Wow.
They were incentivizing the children to turn against the family because they wanted to destroy the family.
Good God. That is evil personified. The enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy. And that's what they're trying to do. So Lee, so many people, I mean, I've been following you since way before 2020. You're just a warrior for our country and to educate people on the truth that will set us free. But some of the people that may be watching may not know who Lee Dundas is. So tell them your background and what made you decide to be the warrior that you are. Obviously that was the calling on your heart and from God.
Yeah, I think I was definitely put here by him for reasons such as this.
At a time like this.
Yeah, at such a time as this. I think it took 50 years to figure out that I had a skill set that involved bullhorns and yelling at blue state tyrants, but here we are. I was a regular lawyer.
I thought so.
So I had skipped high school, so I was young when I started. I've been in practice over 30 years now. I started college at 14, got into Yale Law School and all the other law schools I applied to at 17, and then came out 3 years later, 2021, passed the state bar in Cali. And right around the time I could legally enter a bar to drink to celebrate my win, I was able to actually, pass the bar. 2 bars, good thing. Celebrate the bar and
in the bar.
Pass the bar, in the bar, yeah. So did that, and then I went to work for big corporations, pesticide companies, banks, cities, ball teams. St. Louis Rams was a client. And it was a good training ground. It didn't make my heart happy, but it was a very good education. And I got very good at understanding that most of the Fortune 500 companies are not there to do you a favor.
No.
They are there to make money, and they'll make it off your back, and they'll throw your kids under the bus to do it, particularly pharma, big oil, stuff like that. So anyway, so I was doing that for a while, and then in 2013, I started busting brothels in Southeast Asia.
Wow.
Yeah, and rolling into jihadi-controlled, radical Islamic-controlled territories where there were nothing but child brothels.
Wow.
And across the river were terror training cells for the radical jihads who would bomb across the river the brothel towns we were working in and the brothels. And we had 330 bombs go off the first year I went there. It was a crazy town. And I know that most soccer moms of 8-year-olds do not want to do what I did in 2013. Leave their baby home in a bed in Orange County and and go to the brothel town. So I included full color pictures in my book, even though it doubled the cost of the printing.
Right.
Where you can actually see what a room in a child brothel looks like and what the work I did there looks like, and as well what the brothel town looked like when it was being blown up. So you see pictures of explosions and bombed out buildings, and I wanted really to take the soccer mom and dad and grandma and grandpa and the 13-year-old kid to take them there safely.
Right.
And a picture's worth 1,000 words, because once you understand, you can't ever unknow.
That's right.
And you change people's hearts and minds, they own that data, and then they're compelled to help. And maybe what that means for you is you're an accountant, you don't want to go to a third world country. Fine, do my taxes for my nonprofit for free. That's $2,000 or $3,000 I can put into saving girls out of brothels because I'm not having to pay an accountant to do it. So lots of times people are like, oh, I love what you do, but I could never do it. I'm like, well, what do you do? Oh, I do graphic design. I do social media posting. But you know what a Luddite I am on my phone? I don't even know how to use Instagram. I can't tell you how many kids are like, Lee, it's not that hard. You just do this and you drag the little image there and you can make the font bigger. And then I'm like, okay, let me try. And then they go, you really are dyslexic on social media, aren't you? I'm like, I'm not joking. I'm bad at what I'm bad at. I'm really good at what I'm really good at. But
And to know that is a blessing.
and I stay in my lane.
Yes.
So if you can do a social media post, if you can, whatever you do, there's ways to help these nonprofits that fight for our kids and that fight for us now, fight for freedom, period. And that's why I started doing it in 2013, and then March hit in 2020, and I'm like, oh, hell's bells, we got a bigger problem in my own backyard in America than we do in Southeast Asia in the brothel towns. So off I went to fight for freedom here, and I organized the convoy, and we organized the nationwide boycott to force the judges to finally start making decisions on those mandate cases. They weren't ever going to get in the ring. They were going to keep kicking those cases out on technicality, so they didn't have to say to Biden that Biden was wrong.
Right.
They didn't want any part of that fight. And I'm like, all right, you can do that, but the boys who run the supply chain are walking off the job, and if you want to play ball like that, you're not going to have toilet paper for your wife's hiding by Christmas. Are you sure you want to go there?
Exactly.
You don't want to play a game of chicken with the blue-collar boys. They will kick your arse every single day of the week and twice on Sunday.
Amen.
And that is exactly what happened. We boycotted November 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th. Everybody walked off the job. The doctors and the nurses have been wanting to walk for months.
Right.
Teachers, and I said, okay, all y'all in all your different states, you're not doing it here and there, one off. We're going to all do it collectively, power in numbers, on the same week. And we had Procter & Gamble. They made an ad. They said, you may not know who we are, but you'll know once we're not here making your goods. And then they flashed every single brand Procter & Gamble makes. I didn't know what Procter & Gamble. They make tampons. They make diapers. They make everything that you can't eat in your house. They make your husband's shaving cream, your razors, your dish soap, your Dawn, your Gain, your Tide. I mean, like, everything is made by Procter & Gamble. They walked. We shut down bridges. We shut down the Golden. We were rallying at the bridges. We had a rally at the Golden Gate on the Monday of that week. Somebody got in a car accident. We weren't intending to shut it down, but shut down it was. We had people rumbling in the east. We had power, water, dam, trash. You want to bring a first world country to its knees? Have the trash not get picked up for a bit. There are 6 nuclear facilities in the U.S. total. Combined, those 6 facilities control 100% of our offensive and defensive capability, nuclear-wise, against the world. Those guys were sitting in their offices, quaking in their boots because Nurse Ratchet was coming in with a jab and going, oh, I'm just going to, roll up your sleeve. I'm just going to, and they're like, get the hell out of here. I can read the medical journal studies. I got 3 PhDs. You're not getting anywhere near my bicep.
Right.
They were tired. They're like, we'll walk. I'm like, okay, you want to do an interview with Epoch Times? Enrico Tragoso at Epoch Times wrote an article that said, is Biden's vaccine mandate policy threatening nuclear security? You thought it was a coincidence that on Friday of that week at midnight, the 5th Circuit Court of Appeals of the Southern District finally said, we're going to take this vaccine mandate case and we're going to rule against Biden and his policy because it is creating untold economic consequences on the supply chain. I'm like, you don't say. And everybody said, oh, a round of applause for the Warriors. I'm like, no. You give yourselves a round of applause because the courts of law always follow the courts of public opinion. The power of the people walking off their jobs is what got the judges to get off their hind knees and into the courtroom to make that decision. Otherwise, they would have been on the sidelines for another year. So there have been amazing things that we had done, and 100% of the time they worked. But none of those things involve lawsuits. And none of those things that I've done have involved legislation because in the blue states, they just don't work. I'm not going to waste my time, but I will waste my time because it's not a waste of time doing a convoy, doing a nationwide boycott.
That was great. And it made a movement that we'll never, ever forget. And boy, it was the biggest blessing for this country when the truckers did what they did.
Yeah. It was a little like herding cats that were high on methamphetamine and enrolled themselves in margarine onto the same page. But I'm not unhappy I did it because it was February of 2022. We were all still locked down in the blue states. This is literally just over 2 years ago, guys.
Right.
Feels like forever. You weren't eating indoors. You were wearing a mask still. Your non-essential business was not open, even though the pot shop was open and the church was still borderline. That's how we were in the blue states. And it stayed that way. February 4th, I announced on Facebook, we're doing a convoy. Rubber Ducky 10-4, convoy coming your way, Biden. And that weekend, the White House leaned on every single blue state governor, all 25 of them, 26, whatever it was, and called them up and said, boys, you're going to open the heck up because we want to make this convoy look moot, and hopefully it won't come for us, and even if it does, we're going to make it look moot. And I want to take the microphone to the State of the Union and say, as Biden, that I am the victor over COVID, and we're all open back up. So I made that announcement on Friday. All of that went on over the weekend. 3 days later, February 7th, we haven't gotten out of Dodge. The convoy didn't happen until the 20th something. February 7th, the first 3 blue states opened up. 2 days later, 2 more were open, and they fell one after another. Michigan, Hawaii, Alaska, Kentucky, Connecticut. Everybody's like, the blue states are opening back up. I'm like, you thought that was a coincidence? That they just fell like dominoes in a row? We forced his hand. His worst nightmare was having, and we had moles in the White House. And they're like, oh yeah, his worst nightmare is that he has a Justin Trudeau Occupy Ottawa situation in his backyard in D.C. He wants no part of that.
Right.
Yeah, that's how you get it done.
And she did, and oh my God, where would we be had that not happened? God only knows, right? Thank God we were just like running the show, shaking the bell, saying it's time.
You know where I learned that? I learned how well convoys work in Thailand in 2013. So Thailand, if you're not familiar with that country, and you're probably not if you live in America, they have a coup every 5 to 6 years like clockwork for the last century. Why? Because they have lost the ability to honestly hold elections.
Wow.
Side note to my story, yeah. You don't want to be in the street having a coup d'etat, you get on top of your election integrity right now. Right damn now, or your only recourse is going to be what our forefathers did to break away from England. And I just don't think most of the soccer moms really have the stomach for it at this point in time, nor should we have to do that. Our forefathers didn't want that for us. That's why we have the government we do. We should be able to peacefully petition, assemble, exercise our freedom of speech, and get her done. But anyway, back to my main story. I walk out of my hotel room in Bangkok, Thailand, and every person in Thailand is on the street, in the street, pulling at the tanks. There's fires, tanks are being set on fire. Military is going against the people. Military is trying to maintain control. People are like, no, we want you gone. It's a full-on coup d'etat. And I'm like, what is happening? I thought I was here to best brothels, and now it's extra exciting. And it was a bit of a stalemate, weeks rolling on, and the people go 2 steps forward, and then the military pushes them back, and nobody's winning. Finally, the Thailand farmers are like, yeah, we've had enough. And these boys get on their big old earth-moving equipment. They're caterpillars, they're backhoes, they're the things that knock rainforests down. I mean, they're big farm equipment. They can only go about 12 miles an hour max, and it takes them 2 damn days to hump and jump their way across the rural Thailand. They get to Bangkok, and they're about to encircle Bangkok International Airport. And I watched the balance of power in that country switch in a New York second. All of a sudden, the people are the winners. The government's like, we're out. You do you. And I remember looking at God and being like, I feel like there's a lesson here, God. And then I'm like, I'm a soccer mom, a little Caucasian girl from Orange County in a first world country. When am I ever going to have to do a convoy?
Well, thank God. God had a plan, and he knew who he could use that would listen and follow through and be obedient to the call, which is what you have done, and you have been such an instrument to our country and to the world.
Been trying.
Everything that she's done, I just love your heart. You have been a warrior since 2020. I've seen you, I've followed you, I've met you, and what a blessing to finally have you on Katie Huff Ministries podcast.
It's an honor. It's an honor to hold these microphones and share time with the folks who are getting the truth out, because if your audience doesn't understand how people end up in Auschwitz, I'll try to give you the nutshell version. A bad man comes to town. He promises you the world on a platter, and he cannot afford to have people speak out against him, and so he censors. Hitler had 7 different departments for his censorship machine. Joseph Goebbels was over all of it. They had counter-propaganda, they had school propaganda, they had healthcare propaganda, this thing was a machine. They had arts, theater, cabaret. They censored the living heck out of the German people. On Goebbels' birthday, they handed out loudspeakers and radios to every single family in Germany. They didn't care about you. They weren't doing that to give you a new birthday gift on their minister's birthday. They wanted to be able to brainwash you. And they knew that to brainwash you, they needed this in your ear. So in the beginning, he outlawed listening to people like you, Katie. You could not listen to the BBC in Germany, or you'd be put in jail. By the end, if you listened to a BBC broadcast coming across country lines from England, you would die. If you so much as broadcast the truth or listen to somebody broadcasting the truth, you would go instantly be dead in a concentration camp in an oven somewhere. And that is how you take over a country. So when I'm teaching this course, literally on the first day of this class 2 weeks ago, I went through the Holocaust, I went through the Cambodia communist overthrow in the 70s, and I'm like, you see this thing? Don't you ever let go of the microphone. Ever. It is your lifeline. And then I played, remember that movie with Mel Gibson? We Were Soldiers Once and Young that came out. It's about the La Drang Valley Vietnam conflict. It was the first sustained conflict in the Vietnam War. They had Mel Gibson's character, I forget the colonel's name, Hal Hutchinson, I think was his name actually. That's who Mel Gibson was playing, and he had been through the Korean War, and he knew Vietnam was going to be a nightmare. But he got called up, and he's in there, and I forget how many North Vietnamese troops surrounded them in this valley, but they were outgunned, outmanned. It was a bloodbath. And finally, you see his radio guy with the briefcase, right? This is the late 60s. And you hear Mel Gibson turn to his radio guy, and he goes, "Broken arrow, call in a broken arrow." And you hear the guy going, "Broken arrow, latitude, longitude, broken arrow, broken arrow." And you see they flash over to the camp, and all the colonels who decided to do whatever this mission was had not wanted it to get out what show it was turning into. And they're like, oh my God, there's no holding it down now, the word's out. So a broken arrow is what you call in when you are surrounded on 360 degrees and you're gonna die.
Wow.
And what it basically asks all American available aircraft and military personnel to immediately mount up in whatever their planes and helos are, and they come in hot and they carpet bomb almost on top of your position because your enemy is so close. You're my enemy. Like, we are now fighting with bayonets. We're not even pistol range apart. And they're here and they're there. And so you're calling in coordinates that are literally 5 feet from where your men are. And you see the first pass go in, and there's just kaboom, kaboom, bombs going off everywhere. And the radio guy gets it wrong, or the bomber did, and they're off by 10 feet on one of the coordinates. And you see all these American GIs burn up because they bombed our men.
Wow.
And the radio guy is like, and Hal Hutchinson, Mel Gibson goes over and he goes, "Shake it off and call it in again. You're doing God's work. Keep it coming. It doesn't matter the loss. You keep it coming. It's the only way any of us are ever walking out of here." And I played this 4-minute clip out of this movie, and I looked into the camera and I said, "Ladies with your kids taking this course for college credit for Psych 101, you make damn sure they understand you don't ever lose your microphone, whether you're in a real firefight or a 5th generation war like we're in right now before the bombs are going off, or it's just information war. This is always your lifeline, and that is why we must fight censorship." And back to where I started with this story, that is why I'm so grateful to people like you, because I would be nothing without you. You would be nothing without me. It takes a village. I can't get the word out without the microphone. Your people can't hear it without the microphone. We've all got a piece of this, but we need to stand up. We need to take this country back for our kids. They deserve a heck of a lot better than they've had the last few years. And that is what I'm teaching your kids to do on the Psychology of the Winter course. So go to Dundas.com, click on the education tab, $99, best money, in my humble opinion, shameless plug, you're ever going to spend. It may actually be the difference between your kid ending up in a quarantine camp or not.
Life and death.
Life and death. Get the data now. All of my playbook, every single play I've run, I'm giving it to you so you can do it in your town, because there's not enough of me to go around, but there is enough of you.
That's right. So thank you, Lee, for your heart, your passion, your just willingness to stand up and fight, which she has for her whole life. So God had a plan, and you are following it, and you are being blessed because of it. And I just want to say thank you so much. And all of you need to follow Katie Huff Ministries on YouTube, Facebook, Spotify, Apple, X, you name it, the platform. You don't want to miss what the play is and what Lee is telling us, teaching us, and fighting for us. So God bless you, Lee.
Thanks
you are
for
an
having
angel.
me.
You are a warrior, and I'm so blessed and so grateful to have you here. I've
I
been
feel the
following
same.
you since 2020, and I was just like, thank you, Jesus, for putting this woman in my life.
Well, thank you, Jesus, for putting all of us here. Clay Clark's done an amazing thing with these Reawaken events. And since I am hard to find because I'm always moving around on convoys, the rock solid place online to find me is leadundus.com. You know where to find Katie. Catch us online because we're quick. We're moving town to town these days, getting her done.
Yes.
And I can't wait to see where this leads. We're winning, and don't you ever forget it.
Amen. And this is a God-blessing moment, and it's a wrap. Thank you, Dee. Lee. Dundas.
worries.
Lee Dundas. She's
Katie.
done the job. Lee Dundas.
Bye, girl.
My name is Katie Huff Mortensen, and my ministry is Katie Huff Ministries out of Lolo, Montana. Unfortunately, women in general, a lot of times will have self-betrayal and shame and settling in their careers or in their relationships. And so I am in the process of helping them to be, do, and have all God created them to be, and to set themselves free from whatever is holding them back.
My wife went to her women's retreat and she came back a different woman. She had so much more confidence.
I would say in general, they do not see or recognize how they're worth. They're worthy of it all, and they've been, beat down from a career or a relationship or family relationships, or they're just shouldering so much of the past is one big thing. And then the other thing is not realizing who they are in the eyes of Christ, that they are forgiven, they are loved unconditionally, that there are no mistakes, there's only lessons, and that God's plan is so perfect. And so they go from walking in clay, not sure, a little depressed, sad, feeling terrible about their past and being stuck and not moving forward, knowing that there's something much bigger for them in the future.
I had the wonderful chance to meet Katie when I went to a conference, and the first thing I noticed about her is she had an amazing energy.
Well, great people like the women that have come in the past and continue to come is that they are coming because they know that there is light at the end of their struggle.
She's an awesome leader, a mentor.
I have seen over the last 14 years of doing this, women come in broken, and they are sad and depressed, frustrated, and they walk out smiling. They've had a breakthrough of what they can be, do, and have.
Attend her retreat, and you will never be the same.
I have known Katie Huff Mortensen for about 16 years, and she is just an amazing leader.
It is pretty incredible. It's in Paradise, Montana, and that's not by chance. It's an absolutely gorgeous surrounding. There's a hot springs there that women can relax in between sessions. They can have their cup of coffee in the morning in the hot springs. We have breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and the food is incredible. We are in a Camp Bighorn is the name of the location, and it is a Christian campsite. We have 2 sessions in the morning, we have 1 in the afternoon, and then this past year we actually did a ropes course where it was suspending ourselves and getting over fear, which was a huge stretch of your courage to be set free. And in this fall of last year, we actually went floating down the river in rafts as an excursion. We have the Bison Refuge as another excursion. So there's a big mix of, education and support and sessions, followed by outings and relaxation, great food, great camaraderie, sisterhood. where people feel very safe and they have major breakthroughs. They can buy tickets at Eventbrite under Katie-Huff Ministries. So katy-huff.com is the website that they can go to get more information. So Katie-Huff, HUFF.com on my website, and they can see where it says events. And the cost depends on their lodging in the sense that they have 3 different tiers of lodging. They can be on the river, and that is the best view. You're on the river. The second one is in a cabin with 2 queen beds, and then a third option. So the rooming is the difference between anywhere from $1,500 to $2,000 for those 4 days. And it includes everything in the food and the adventures and the lodging. I want you to go to katy-huff.com/events and fill out the form so I can call you and lead you from where you are today to the event in May 4th through the 7th, 2025 in Paradise, Montana, which is an incredible location where you will be set free to live your best life ever.